Welcome to the Rumbidzai show. Thank you very much for joining us today. Please may you like this video, share it, invite your friends to watch it, drop a message in the comments and tell us where you're watching from. Today we're talking about, we're continuing on talking about COVID experiences, talking about some of the great work that's been done by people in our community. And today I'm so honored and privileged to have with us Last Mafuba, who is the founder and chief executive officer of Inini initiative, which is based here in Coventry. Welcome, welcome, welcome.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Oh, thank you so much for coming. And we've been trying to get you to come on so we could hear all about you. And finally, we've managed to get a date.
Finally. It's been a long time waiting.
Oh, thank you so much for taking this time. I really, really appreciate that. So thank you. I just want us to just get to know a little bit more about you, the services you provide, but more about you as a person first. Just some personal questions about where you come from and things like that. So if you could perhaps take us back to 1960 something.
To the late 60s.
To the late 60s, yes. Oh, great. Where were you born?
I was born kwaMafuva. It's a small village outside Masvingo in Zimbabwe.
That's great.
It's about 20 kilometers outside Masvingo. So that's where I was born.
Wow.
And that's where I grew up until I was about 8.
Okay.
Then I moved to Harare, where I lived until I was about 10, 11. Then I went back to Masvingo, but I went to boarding school when I was in grade 5 in Masvingo. Then I went back to Harare to do my secondary school.
Wow.
Yeah.
Oh, that's amazing. And I know that when you were in Harare, you did some work with with a magazine. Can you tell us a little bit more about some of the work that you did whilst you were in Zimbabwe?
Yeah. After I did my O-levels, I went and worked for Air Zimbabwe.
Wow.
Yes. I was with ASIM for about 10 years. After the 10 years, I migrated to the UK.
Okay.
And whilst in the UK, decided to live in the UK with no papers. Found that it was undoable and went back to Zimbabwe.
Went back. Oh, so you came for a little bit and then you went back.
I went back. My son was only 4.
Okay.
And my daughter was 11 then, and it was very, very difficult to parent them whilst working with no papers and whatnot. I just thought, I can't do this. So I went back home.
Oh, it's difficult, isn't it? That type of life is very challenging. And during the early 90s, I think there wasn't a lot of support as well, even from other people. So it must have been difficult.
It was very difficult. We lived in Luton.
Okay.
But I'll tell you, there weren't many black people in Luton.
Yeah,
so
not compared to now, isn't it? Yes.
Compared to now. If it was now, I think it would have been much, much easier.
Yeah.
Or even just 3 years later, after we arrived, we had loads of friends.
Yeah. Because lots of people arrived between 2000 and 2002.
Yes, yeah.
And so you came back again to the UK. So you went back to Zim, and how was that experience for you?
It was okay. I went back to Zim and re-established myself.
Okay.
Yeah. I registered a freight company. I'll travel to the UK, go back to Zim, shipping freight, doing this and that. So it was okay.
Okay.
For a while. Then eventually in 2010, I moved to the UK. Okay. Yeah. Permanently.
That's really interesting because you were able to re-establish yourself. You know what that makes me think of, actually, just what you're saying, that you did go back, you established a company and you were going up and down and traveling. But the economy wasn't conducive for business. I take it, I'm making assumptions, but why did you come back then? Why did you come back in 2010?
When I went back I think it was 2000. The economy was okay-ish then, but then this is when I started the magazine.
Okay.
And in 2004, the magazine folded.
Okay.
That's when the inflation hit hard.
Yeah.
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 And so, but I still stayed.
Okay.
Because then I changed from the magazine to the freight.
All right. Okay.
Yes. And the freight was okay because then I would earn foreign currency. So it was okay.
Yeah.
Then eventually, and what was making it difficult for me to move as well was the fact that I'm the youngest in my family, and having my mom and my dad, it was just difficult to leave them.
Okay.
But eventually, both of them died.
Oh.
And my son moved to the UK to be with his dad. And my daughter married. So I was on my own.
Okay.
So eventually I had to move here to be closer to my son.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right.
Yeah.
Oh, so you came back again in 2010. And how did you find that the demographic had changed? You know, there were more Black people compared to the first time that you were here. Your children were a bit older. So how did you find the second move to the UK? How was that for you?
The second move, even though there were now many people that I actually even know from back in Zimbabwe, it was different in the sense that even though these people were here and I knew them, I'd now come back to settle. So I began to find challenges trying to integrate into the community. This is when I saw the challenges that were there.
Okay. You said you found it difficult to integrate into the community. Could you expand on that a little bit?
Yeah, I will. When I first arrived, I'm just giving you examples. So when I first arrived, obviously, I had nowhere to live.
Okay.
And I tried to move in with my stepdaughter. And unfortunately, the very evening that I went into her house just to see her, I haven't even brought my bags. When I went to visit, so to see how it was, she fell ill and was taken into hospital. She never made it out of hospital.
Wow.
So that's one.
Yeah.
And there were just challenges of you're not home.
Yeah, home is different, isn't it? Yeah.
You are not home. You've left your loved ones, your friends, and your space, the space where you were safe.
Yes.
You've left your safe space and you're in a new space.
Yeah.
But you're homeless.
Yeah.
And things are a bit different in the UK. Even if I know you, Rumbi, you don't have time for me because you also have your own challenges. So you're focusing more on your challenges.
Yes.
You don't have time to sit and check on me and see how I'm doing.
Yes.
So that was different, those challenges.
Yeah.
And you need to have information. You need to know how to navigate the system.
Yeah.
You need all that information. And when you end up with somebody who doesn't even know themselves how to navigate the system.
Exactly.
So you're doomed.
Yeah. So you've said there that that you found it difficult to access information, to navigate the system. And one thing that you've said that I took from there as well was you could have situations where it's the blind leading the blind because no one knows themselves how to access the information. And also something I've taken is the isolation that is there, that even if you are around people, there's no time, and perhaps the values that we have, that Ubuntu, which is back in Zimbabwe, or that we had experienced growing up, wasn't there when you arrived. And so from there, I know that you're the founder and chief executive of Inini. initiative. How is that tied into your early experiences here? Because I know you do work with some refugees, some asylum seekers, some migrants of different types of migrants. How is that linked perhaps to your early experience?
So what happened was, when I was trying to integrate into my community and struggling, I was depressed.
Okay.
I got into a deep depression. I was referred for counseling. I went for just one session and I disengaged. But then I started volunteering with Coventry Refugee and Migrant Center. And whilst there, I realized there were so many people who were depressed. You could tell so many people were going through stuff, facing so many challenges. And there were counseling therapists at the refugee center. And people were referred to them. But just like me, they'd go for a session or 2 sessions, and then they would disengage. And then I thought to myself, that just made me curious. Why do we start then stop? So I said to myself, I'm going to study and become a clinical psychologist so that I can work with these people. So I went and studied psychology.
Wow.
But when I was studying, at the end of it, I realized it was very difficult to get into clinical psychology. And at the same time, an opportunity arose where I was offered a scholarship to study a master's.
Okay.
So I chose to study international development, law, and human rights, and focus on migration.
Okay.
Because I wanted to study more on refugees.
Okay.
What pushes people? I wanted to understand the humanitarian law. I wanted to understand the laws that govern refugees and asylum seekers, because I had just grown closer to them when I was working
at the refugee center.
Okay. So I really wanted to know more, to understand more about them. So I did that master's in international development law and human rights. And for my thesis for that program, I researched on why recent female migrants living in the UK do not access the law when they are experiencing domestic violence.
Okay.
And it was whilst I was doing that research that I realized that there was a lot of mental health issues. It was just a confirmation because I'd seen it already. But the confirmation was there. The abused were going through mental health issues. The abusers were going through mental health issues. So I thought to myself, nah, I think we need to start looking into mental health issues. Because when I was studying, I also volunteered with Coventry and Warwickshire Mind in their IAB department. But access to that service by Black people was almost zero.
Wow. And
on graduation, I worked for them in a different department, and still access by Black people was next to zero. But then my studies had taught me that Black people are overrepresented in mental health issues. They are detained under the Mental Health Act. If you go into hospitals, they are there. They are highly represented. But when it comes into the community, you don't see them.
So they don't access the services, but there's a high representation far up the line when they're in hospital.
Yes.
Okay.
And sometimes, usually they don't even access mental health services. They do it through the criminal justice system.
Wow.
And I just thought, no, something is wrong here. Something needs to be done. This is when I came up with the idea of registering Inini.
Okay, that's amazing. That's really inspiring. And I love I'm just looking at just from our short conversation, just your resilience, your adaptability, even from when you went back to Zim and when you came back here, and even here, the studies that you've done, which have linked to Inini initiative, which you're the founder and CEO of. It's amazing because you have seen a problem and brought a solution. And how is that solution? How does it? What do you do at Inini initiative?
So what we do at Inini, I'll say when I launched Inini, the focus was on creating awareness of mental health.
Okay.
Because I was seeing people engage with mental health services, then disengage. So to me, it was more like, oh, it's us Black people, we don't understand mental health. This is why we are disengaging. But when I started working with people, I realized it was not that at all. People knew what depression was. They knew what stress was. But when they try to access services, there's a lot of other things that come into play. There's racism in it.
Wow.
The mental health service that's available is not adequate for them.
Okay.
So, and I think also, the way mental illness manifests in people is different according to cultures. So even if we wanted to blame the mental health service, they were catering for the mainstream communities. And also research has shown that we Black people do not participate in health research.
Okay.
So interventions that are there are not meant for us. They are meant for the mainstream communities because they are the ones who access the research. They do the research. And also it's not because we don't want to do the research, but the money is just not available to Black people to do the research. So it's a cycle.
It's a cycle. It's a vicious cycle.
It is
and then people end up in the criminal justice system, like you've said, and that becomes a full, it becomes a vicious circle. Yeah. Wow. So so you started by wanting to raise awareness, but in that you found that the issue wasn't awareness, but rather it was the inadequacy of the services that were available to our particular client group.
Yes, that's what I found out. And then I thought, instead of us probably looking at mental health interventions, why don't we address the issues that cause mental health issues? Okay. Which is the integration challenges that people face.
Yeah.
The isolation, the language barriers. If you look around, you will find that migrants, they occupy all the dilapidated housing. They go to university, they still cannot get a job. If they get a job, they are on 0 contract hours. Everything is just hard for them. And it just gives them mental health issues. So what we do at Inini is we talk about racism. And how to challenge it. We provide a safe space where we meet every Tuesday. So in there, we can talk about almost anything. If you have pressing issues, you talk about them in there. We refer to other services. We give information, we give updates, and we work with mainstream organizations to train them on how to work with minority ethnics. Yes, we train them to do that. We give talks. We also sit in meetings where we represent Black people. So like recently I was in a workshop where there's a social prescribing workshop that's going on because the government has put in money so that people can, especially those experiencing mental health issues, instead of going on medication or therapy, they are prescribed to do social activities. So it was a way of going there to say, when they are talking about this activity, and then Black people don't access those services. So it's about going in there to sit and say, oh no, this won't work for our kind of people.
For our people.
Yes.
So that's a voice in those meetings, in those areas, which is amazing, which is really good. That's amazing. And how have you found the work that you do? And, with COVID-19, that's we're going through at the moment, there's been a lot of press, there's been research that's been done and statistics which say that there is a higher proportion of BME people, proportionally more have died and more are susceptible to becoming more critical with COVID and becoming more ill. How have you seen in your community that you work? Is that a reality? What's your view on that?
Firstly, I would say it is a reality.
Mm-hmm.
And going back to what I've been explaining, you are already vulnerable in the sense you are living in a moldy house. You're working 15 hours a day.
Mm-hmm.
And people would say, why are you working 15 hours a day? I am working 15 hours a day because I need to look after myself.
Mm-hmm.
We are lowly paid. We pick all the junk jobs that nobody wants. It doesn't matter how educated you are. No one will give you a job. So I have to put in more hours to be able to afford a better life for my kids. You know, mostly when people move from whichever country they're coming from, especially southern countries, they're moving to give their children a better life. And so I'm working because I'm trying to give my children a better life. And I understand, I'm not a nurse, but from my understanding with the people that I work with, if you are a nurse and working, say, in a hospital, promotion doesn't come that easy to you. And that racism that I've talked about, that discrimination, I would say, is still there. So people opt to do agency work because it pays more. And you're not really answerable to the management structure of the hospital, but of the agency. So if you're doing agency work, as soon as you arrive at work, you just allocated a person to work with, isn't it? And because the full-time workers, they know this person has got COVID. So they won't work with that person. But your agency, they will come and give you that person to look after. And we all know the government was not prepared, so there was no PPE. And this person is vulnerable already because of her background. So
it is a reality, and those are the things. I mean, it goes down to the root issues which we've said, which is the racism, the discrimination that's there, the fact of lowly paid jobs, the lack of preparation for the government, which has caused the higher deaths. And the work that you're doing is amazing in terms of bringing these things to the decision makers and getting them to talk about these things and to hear our views and to hear the views of the people. If you are, I'll go back to how people can get help from you just a little bit later. Just sticking to the COVID story, I know that you've been doing amazing work to alleviate poverty in Coventry during the COVID pandemic. And I would love for you just to tell our viewers a little bit more about the work that you're doing. I don't want us to finish before you have a chance to tell people about what you're doing, because it's good to celebrate each other and to celebrate, the work that people are doing and have been doing through this pandemic.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. Yes, I've been doing some work with some of them are people that I've been working with before COVID arrived. But then I also gained more people as the lockdown continued, because people began to lose their jobs. I think I mentioned earlier that we work 0 contract hours. Obviously, when COVID arrived and businesses were closed, they were not furloughed. They lost their jobs. So it was about giving them information on how to access benefits. It was about giving them information on which food banks to use and how to access them. It was giving them information on which GPs, how to access GPs. Most GPs were now giving, you could access the GP online, right? Which most people think that was the best way to do.
Yes.
But because of language barrier, it doesn't work for some of us. I speak English. I went to university here in England. And even when I need to access my GP, I have to make a phone call in the morning.
Yes.
Talk to the receptionist. Tell her what's wrong with me. And then she will say, okay, I'll ask the GP to ring you back or whatnot. So, but still, I don't know how to explain my symptoms in English. So can you imagine having to talk to the GP?
When you don't even speak English.
When I don't even know how to tell you. So many times I go onto Facebook, go onto the groups and ask, I'm feeling this, using my colloquial language.
Yes, what
do I say to the GP? So you can imagine somebody who is not literate enough to go onto Facebook or social media to ask that. How are they going to access the GP?
Yes.
So you will find that most people probably only managed to access health services when their health had already deteriorated.
Yes, that's true.
Yes.
Yeah.
So it's some of the things that we are doing. And also, I work with a group of people with no recourse to public funds. They usually use the night shelter where they spend the day roaming the streets. Nobody cares about them. And then they will go to the night shelter just to sleep. And 8 o'clock they have to leave. And these people include those who had been detained under the Mental Health Act. They still need to take their medication. The medication makes them drowsy. You still don't have anywhere to put your head down throughout the day.
Wow.
Yes. And you're expected to recover from your mental health. Oh, well, the lockdown arrived and they were housed by the council. And voila. So the council can house people, homeless people. It happened.
It happened all over the country.
All the homeless people disappeared from town.
Yeah.
They were housed.
Yeah.
Hallelujah. But they put them in accommodation where they cannot access kitchens.
Yeah.
So they can't make meals. Yeah, I have a roof over my head now, but I can't eat.
Eat.
So the other thing that I'm doing is making meals for those people.
Wow.
But I do have some volunteers who then come and collect the food and then deliver to where they are.
Amazing.
So that's the kind of work that I'm doing. And I'm carrying on with our Tuesday drop-in, though we are now doing it via Zoom. Because it is a support group where many cannot afford not to come because they feel at home. It's their safe space.
Wow.
It's where they empty, where they offload. And we also have a counseling therapist.
Okay.
Who then, if you need one-to-one, she gives one-to-one therapy. She also gives group therapy. And she has been very busy because so many people have been asking for a service.
Wow, because of during this coronavirus,
because of the
lockdown.
And because of the lockdown, we have seen, I've actually read even in the papers, that relationships got damaged. Yeah. So there's a lot of work. There's a lot of work. There's a lot of homeless people. There's a lot. They are homeless, then they come to you. They don't know where to go. They don't know what to do. So it's holding their hand and signposting them, making phone calls here and there to make sure that they are housed, to make sure they get food and stuff like that. That's what we are doing.
That's amazing. That's really wonderful work. And it's I was going to say, how can people contact you? But you seem to be already have so much work that you're doing. But you can always signpost them onto other agencies and places as well who can help them. But it's amazing, and I do want to celebrate and just acknowledge all the hard work that you do. And it's not often that we, as Zimbabweans, I think it's good for us we like to have entertainment, especially for Zimbabweans. But I know there are other people who watch this. But for Zimbabweans, sometimes we're good at putting each other down and not celebrating each other when we do great things. So I've always been looking at the work that you're doing, and from the time you came and you went to university and everything, and the amazing work with Inini. And personally, I just want to say thank you. And, may you continue to do this great work and to reach more people. And we hope that you will continue to get all the support and the encouragement. And definitely, if there's anyone out there who's watching who does need help, please, you can contact her. I'll put the details in the comment section. We're not going to let her rest. She's going to have more and more work and get more volunteers and grow and continue to be able to reach more people, which is what we would love. So yeah, so that's amazing. Thank you so much. I just wanted you to just have one final word, if you have anything to say to our viewers, anyone who's struggling in the areas, just a word of encouragement or anything just to encourage them.
Actually, I think I would talk to the community at large. Mm-hmm. What I've realized, especially amongst Black Zimbabweans, mm-hmm. You've said it, we tend to put each other down, mm-hmm. and we don't know how to speak kindly to one another or about one another. That's all we need. That's all we need. You don't know what other people are going through. Just be kind to them.
Yeah.
And when somebody comes on social media and asks something, just be kind
and answer.
If you don't have an answer, it's okay to just keep quiet.
Yeah.
I see people they are torn down.
Yes.
For asking for help.
For help.
Yeah. I think, please be kind.
Be kind. Be kind. Be kind. Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you, Last, for coming on. And I know your time is so valuable, so I'm so grateful. And I hope someone has been encouraged, even someone who thinks, I would like to start something. There's nothing to stop you. You can also start something to help the community and help in so many different ways with the amount of expertise that we have and all the different skills. So I hope you've been encouraged. If you do need help, please reach out. We'll put the details in the comment section. Thank you very much for watching. And don't forget to subscribe if you're watching from YouTube, or to follow our Facebook page. Thank you so much. And thank you very much for your time and for watching. Be blessed. Thank you.